Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of NGamers Checkpoint, a Netflix games podcast. This is where you can find your latest news about Netflix games. We do a weekly show, and there's always something to talk about. Today, I have two of my main co-hosts. We've got NG here. How are you doing, my friend?
Hi, I'm doing good. Hope you're all doing well.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, doing pretty good. Busy. I got a lot of moving to do. I just bought a house, moving this weekend. So after this show, I'll be packing and having some fun with that. And then we've got our good friend Sidlon. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey guys, I'm glad I could make it to this episode. Glad we can get together and talk about some Netflix games.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. So Sidlon couldn't make it on the first episode, but now he's here, and he's a permanent host, and he's a very interesting person. And before we start the show, we're actually going to be doing like a mini interview with Sidlon and learn more about him, because his background is as interesting as NG, because he specialize in specific things, and it just brings a good insight between NG and Sidlon. So hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot there, Sidlon, but I do have a few questions for you here.
Sounds great.
Awesome. So let me just bring up my stuff here. Okay, so when did you start gaming, and what are some of your favorite games?
Yeah, well, I'll say I am probably the oldest one here. I'm an 80s kid. I grew up playing Atari 2600s, NES, with gaming on consoles like Genesis, and in the 90s. Really got into PC gaming, and then I moved into like Palm OS handheld games. So I've been really into games all throughout the decades, and there's too many to pick from.
Yeah, good variety, and at least the mobile subscription keeps us straight, right? Like we get to have like a smaller selection of games, and we're not as overwhelmed, so it's good in a way.
Yeah, and the whole idea of a mobile gaming subscription is kind of new just the last couple of years, where like kind of Apple Arcade kind of was the first one to really make it popular and successful, and I'm really glad Netflix is carrying the torch now.
Yeah.
So we got two competing services, all racing to throw good games that I can play on my iPad. So I'm loving life right now.
So it's interesting that you say that, because it's actually a question that I wanted to ask. So what's your knowledge? What's your background? What other things do you do other than covering Netflix games, and just what kind of knowledge do you have in general?
Yeah, professionally, I'm a software developer, so I write code. But in my spare time, I've always just enjoyed mobile games, going back to Palm OS, up into early iPhones, iPads. So I've played a lot of mobile games on iOS for a long time, and the iPad, it's weird, has been my favorite game console. There's not many people are like that, but like for a decade, it's been the main way I like playing games, which was usually freemium and some premium, but it was always hard to get good quality premium games that you could just pay a price for, the way you can on consoles and PC. But I'm really loving seeing these two subscription services competing now to give us great games for like not that much money a month.
And I've seen a lot of like Apple Arcade people who are very positive about the Netflix subscription. They're not like fanboys about Apple Arcade. They're not like, oh, Netflix, they suck because they're not Apple. But no, we've seen some really positive stuff, so it's very enjoyable to hang around the Apple Arcade crew for sure.
Yeah, I think it's even like less competitive than Coke versus Pepsi. That like,
yeah, exactly.
In general, you're only going to drink one or the other, Coke or Pepsi, but you could be playing both subscription game services and be really happy.
Exactly.
It all depends on how much free time you've got for games. But if you've got time to get two different streams of games coming to you, these are both good services to play with.
Yeah, very cool. And that's why I like to have Sidlon here on the show, because he has like a few more years of knowledge with mobile subscription because of Apple Arcade. So that's why I'm very happy to have you here, Sidlon, and give some insight about that. Now, I'm just curious, like, how did you hear about Netflix games in the first place, and what made you so interested about it? I mean, I can guess why you're so interested, but why did you want to get invested in it?
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to remember when I first heard it. I might not have known it was a thing until Netflix games launched, because I don't think they made a lot of buzz before it happened. But like, it was like 2 years ago, they just kind of sort of quietly launched like this batch of like 4 thick games, which included a game that I'd really loved already, the Stranger Things, the game.
Oh, nice.
On mobile. Mm-hmm. That was like my favorite game from 2017. It's like a Super NES style action adventure game of Stranger Things. And it just blew me away that Netflix they paid to get this game made and published for free. No ads, no IP, nothing. In 2017 for mobile, Apple and Android. And I think that was when they were testing the waters. And I love the idea of Netflix putting out a really good mobile game for free, kind of to advertise their Stranger Things franchise. And I clearly Netflix liked the way it worked, and they made another the Stranger Things 3 game. And a few years later, they make a whole game service built around them. I don't know, and I had, before Netflix games started, I was deep in the Apple Arcade community. So I've been helping to run a Apple Arcade community Discord for a while. And so I was able, and for a while in the early days of Netflix, I got to talk to all the Apple Arcade people about the subset of those who had Netflix, who were mostly pretty excited for these free games that Netflix is giving you without having to pay anything extra.
Yeah, exactly.
I really like that strategy of Netflix to they because they didn't have to do what Apple did and try to like sell people on paying this new subscription service to get games. No, Netflix just said, hey, we've already got a whole bunch of subscribers. Let's just start giving them free games a little bit at a time, and they can gradually build up the library. So now it's a pretty amazing set of games that we still, for now, don't have to pay anything extra to get them.
Yeah,
kind of hard to argue with that.
Exactly, and they just go well together, both services, because they have different type of games, and you subscribe a different way. So it's very different, which is a good thing that they don't clash between each other. I'll
make an argument here. Sorry to interrupt, but I'll make an argument where I kind of feel like the reason Netflix is put the games within actual Netflix themselves and not like its own subscription tier or its own service is because they want to be an all-in-one like ecosystem for your entertainment. Because it's quite clear that they've built it out to be like TV, film, and games. I kind of feel like that's their future plan. Like have obviously the film and TV be like the stuff you watch, and then have like interactive like games and that based on those properties to obviously encourage people to stay on Netflix for longer, let their subscriptions lapse.
No, yeah. I think you're definitely right. I like people were wondering for a while what's going to be the Netflix of games, and Netflix's answer is it's going to be Netflix.
Yeah. Exactly.
You only need one monthly service to give you all the entertainment and distractions you could need.
And NG, you have a good take on that too, because they acquired some book companies too, right? So we might be seeing some book or comic coming out of Netflix.
Yeah. I'm hoping we see the Millerwall and the Roald Dahl books and the Stranger Things books just come saying like, if you're going to give me the comics, or you're going to give me the films and TVs and the games, give me the comics and books as well. I might actually start reading again.
Yeah. I mean, maybe, right? Like, it's just when you're in the ecosystem, you're kind of like attracted to whatever the service is giving you because you're paying for it. So definitely, we might all be reading books sometime soon now.
Yeah.
All right. So, Sidlon, it was nice knowing a little bit more about you. And before we continue to the next section, I'm just going to say hello to the chat. We've got Dead Life here who says, dropping to say hi. Gotta eat with the kids now. We'll watch later. And he says, hopefully it doesn't disappear before I watch today. Yeah, so last episode I struggled a little bit because of some copyright strikes with Netflix. But it's just because I wasn't aware of, what was allowed and what wasn't. I spoken to someone and, we cleared that off. And this episode should be going very well this time around, so you guys shouldn't be worried about that this time. So just to clear that off. So yeah, the last thing I'd like to ask you guys before we jump into the news, just want to ask, what have you been playing lately? And I would like to start with NJ.
What I've been playing lately, well, this might sound a bit weird, but this morning I bought Bubsy 2 for on Steam for like £4. So I figured, I'm going to play Bubsy. I know people hate Bubsy. I think it's fun. But then there's also World of Goo Remastered, which I made a video on earlier, which obviously I've been playing that as well. It's a really fun little game. Surprised Netflix didn't get this game sooner, or something like this game sooner, because obviously they seem to be aiming at the casual market, at least currently anyway. I'm kind of surprised they didn't obviously get that sooner. But then obviously there's Bubsy 2 for there's that, and I've been playing like the Atari Recharge games and trying to introduce them to my girlfriend and show her like, hey, they're not all just like really old, really simple games. Like they have some like genuinely like fun little arcade like experiences here.
Yeah,
so that's what I sort of been into.
The Recharge games are super good, and I encourage anyone to give them a try. They're really good remakes. They have some nice challenges in there, achievements, and all everything. Yeah. So
yeah. And if you want to save money, just buy Yard Recharge. That's the best one. That's the best one. That's like what? I think it's like $10.
Yeah, they're very cheap too.
Just get that, yeah. Just get that, and you'll be fine.
I will be picking that up for sure.
Nice.
I was definitely wondering which one should I start with, and Yar's Revenge. I loved it on the 2600, so I'll definitely play the Recharge version.
It's so good, but it's so hard. Like the challenges in that one, it's crazy, but it's really fun though.
It's weird because I own this 2010 remake as well, which is really strange. I didn't realize they made it, so I went on Atari's Steam page, but I own it, so.
Right, so yeah, Sidlon, what have you been playing lately?
I'm honestly, I like every day. I can't stop playing a little bit more Leia's Horizon because it is just so much fun. Like, even though I've gone through a lot of the challenge levels, sometimes I just ignore the challenges, the quests they give you, and it's just fun to just fly down that mountain again and see if I can find another area I haven't seen before. And Tomb Raider Reloaded is one I can't quite quit. But this week I'll definitely be working through World of Goo again because I loved it playing originally on the Mac, and nice. Playing it on the touchscreen just feels so much more natural even than a mouse for that game. So I know I'll be playing that this week.
Yeah, it's perfect for the mobile for sure, and good selection of games. It's I think I'm with you with these games. It's definitely some of the top to play on the service. And for myself, I've been playing a lot of Transformers Forged to Fight. I'm actually in a clan now, and the clan is like very serious. They want us to do like daily missions and stuff like that. And I'm pretty invested in it, so I'll probably be playing that at least until they unlock all the acts of of the whole story. So I've been playing that and a little bit of some World of Goo also. So yeah, it just came out. It's always exciting when a new game comes out, and I had to play a little bit, and I've been having fun with that one also. Very solid port, no issues on my end, no lag, no the image is super crisp because the remaster is double the resolution and things like that. But yeah, I've been having fun with that. I played a little bit of Kentucky Route Zero this weekend, and I'm down to Act 4, if I'm not mistaken. I'm like in the interlude between Act 3 and Act 4, so it's a very long game, but the story is so weird and interesting.
I so love that game.
Yeah, right. Oh, it's an amazing game. I really encourage people to play it if you like a narrative experience for sure. But that's about it for what I've played. So, what do you say, guys? That we jump into the news now?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. So let me just do my transition. Whoosh. So the first thing that we'd like to talk about is the release of World of Goo, which we just talked about. But yeah, so World of Goo came out on yesterday. The game released around like 12:30 Eastern time. To our surprise or not surprise, it was there when we expected it, and yeah, it's been really fun. The big difference between this and the older game is that first of all, it wasn't supported on mobile anymore. So if you didn't purchase it in the past, it wouldn't you wouldn't be able to purchase it again, and it might have not been compatible with your phone. And the other thing is that they added back cloud save, so you can play it anywhere on all all your platform, iPad, mobile, and yeah, have some fun. So guys, what do you think about the game? We'll start with Sidlon. What have you been thinking about World of Goo? Have you been playing it before?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it on the Mac originally, but it is so much easier on the hands to just like tap and drag the little balls of goo instead of needed to move and mouse click. But I'm really glad they added in the cloud save, because I know that was something people had asked for back in the day when this was out on mobile. But like if you end up having multiple devices, it's really nice to be able to stop on one and resume on another. That's something that's kind of gotten used to with the Apple Arcade, and the Netflix games are like one by one kind of adding in that feature. But yeah, this is just a lot of fun. I mean, you can see from the video. It's just a fun graphical game.
It's a very old game. You know, it released in 2008 back then, and but it really stands out. It really did. You know, it handles the test of time, is what I'm gonna say. So NG, you're pretty new with the game, right? This was your first time trying it?
Yeah, this was my first time trying it, because obviously back when it came out, I was like 5 years old, so I had no ability to. I could lovely see that my video was in the recommended of your trailer there, so that's fun. But basically, with that, it's a fun little game. Obviously, I did enjoy it. I did keep messing up though. I kept like trying to link the Google to a thing that wasn't on the screen, and obviously he kept flying off. I was like, I killed him, but thankfully he would land on the thing below, and he was safe. Thank good old Reed Hastings. You know, he saved him. But yeah. Another thing, Reed Hastings. He saved the Google. But yeah, it's a fun little game. It's a nice little tower sort of building game. I know it's not really the same genre, but it reminds me of like the sort of games like you'd sort of get on like the original, obviously your older iPhones, or like stuff on like you say the original like Game Boy. Now it's like older, more like basic, simple games that are just really fun. So
yeah, exactly. And this was like one of the first game where you could use physics like that, but nowadays you find them so easily, like Bridge Constructor and all of these games about architecture. But they're all coming from the parent, which was World of Goo. We haven't seen that before, so it was very interesting and very.
This definitely inspired all of those games.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything with physics building a bridge, this is the granddaddy.
This is the parent. Yeah, that's what I call it. In the developer language, would say it's the parent of the architecture.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Grandpa Goo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Grandpa Goo.
All right. So in other news, so we got a nice blog here from Netflix Games, and we get this at every end of the month. And what they do is they give us a nice summary of all the games that release in that month. So this month we've received a few games, 4 games to be exact, which is around the average of what you'd get. But Angie, you told me something yesterday, right? Like is this the one with the highest amount of game this year so far?
No, it's tied with January for the highest amount of games this year.
Okay.
This could, maybe there's a surprise one. There's a fifth random one that magically pops up one day before we get into June. But I feel like this is probably the biggest we'll probably get for the year so far. And then obviously June, like later some months like July, August, we'll start to see more. Like we'll start to see 5 or 6 or something. Just like trying to like keep people engaged whilst obviously they're at home and obviously kids are off, so they want something to do. I mean, the gaming and whatnot. But then, it also depends on what they do, because obviously the 4 games we got this month are World of Goo, Layers Horizon, Transformers Forced Fight, and obviously, well, supposedly Dungeon Boss. Dungeon Boss, yeah, if it comes out on the 31st. And then obviously in January we got like Valiant Hearts coming home, Narcos, Cartel Wars. That I'm trying to think what the others were, because there was 4 and I can't remember what TMNT Shadow's Revenge, and I can't remember what the other one was, but it wasn't as big a game. But I do know there was 4 in January.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
but this month is definitely 4 really good games. I mean, we'll find out about Dungeon Boss, but I know I've never played the original, but I know it's got a good fan following.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
All in all, this is a pretty impressive month.
From what I've heard with Dungeon Boss, apparently they just added an extra level and added a few characters packs or something.
Yeah,
and that's some angry guy on Twitter about it, like who responded to Dungeon Boss is Twitter again. You abandoned your fan base.
Yeah, I know, right? Like that's the thing with free-to-play games coming to a premium subscription. They like the current fan base, they're not really interested in it because they sometimes they just lose their progress if they switch to this one. They're not a fan of like paying for it because it used to be a free-to-play game and things like that. But the free-to-play version is still going to be available. Yeah, honestly, as a new player, I hope that we get some exclusive content from Netflix games. That would be pretty cool. But I'm looking forward to it because I'm a big sucker for a turn-based RPG. So
yeah.
That's the exciting thing about... Oh, yeah, sorry. Go ahead, NG.
Yeah, I have suggestions of the content. If any Netflix executives are watching this, please hit me up on my Instagram. Basically, the idea basically is skins from Stranger Things and other Netflix shows. The characters in the game. There you go. There's your easy content bonus for people who play on Netflix games. Don't get the free version. There you go. Problem solved straight away. DLC. There you go. Genius idea, I know.
Why not put Stranger Things skins on every single game? What do you think about that? What do you think about that idea?
As long as they don't get their own game, we'll be fine.
Yeah, Transformers, Stranger Things skins. Let's go. Everything.
I can see what Optimus Prime dressed up as Vecna.
Yeah, definitely. So the exciting. Yeah, go ahead, Sidlon.
I honestly, I don't feel like I could get tired of Stranger Things for a while yet, because I'm still kind of pumped from the latest season. So throw a little Stranger Things into anything, and I love Stranger Things theme on the Mahjong game.
Yeah,
Mahjong
that's true.
Solitaire.
Mm-hmm.
It's somehow more fun with a Stranger Things tile deck.
Yeah, the colors are so smooth. So it's perfect.
Stranger Things, Mahjong, Stranger Things, poker, Stranger Things, dominoes. Just make every game with Stranger Things and you'll make $1 million. There you go. That's how you do it, Netflix.
Stranger Things cars, Stranger Things swords, Stranger Things shoes. Let's go. So the exciting thing about this blog here is that we've learned that Dungeon Boss will be releasing on May 31st. So this is not something that we were aware of until we've heard about this blog. So very exciting. I know our good friend Zud in the community, he was excited to play this game. So I'm happy for him that he'll be able to give it a try with his subscription. So next up in the news, we talked about Stranger Things. Let's go ahead and talk about it, because there's some pretty exciting news here about it. We're hearing some stuff from an interview here by Games Radar. It says, the best Stranger Things game is yet to come, says Netflix. So it looks like they did an interview with one of the Netflix representative. And what they are saying here is, as we build up the muscles to launch more games and we learn more things, then we are naturally going to move into higher scope, more complex AAA type experience across both internal and external studio. But the interesting that they say here is, the Stranger Things games that we got, for example, they're great games, but I don't think we've done the Stranger Things game yet. The one that is authentically connected to that universe and those characters that the fans love. So they're kind of like hinting into like if we connect the dots together, they're hinting that we're gonna get like perhaps like a very good AAA Stranger Things game. So NG, what was your reaction when you first heard about this news?
Well, I made a whole video like a week ago saying about how I think we've got too many Stranger Things games already and we don't need any more. But then I kind of I was looking at this and I was like, okay, so if you do a game that sort of like brings all the Stranger Things franchise together, and it plays basically any character throughout the storyline, say you do a game where you play as 11 for like the first few missions, and then it jumps to like a character from like a spin-off Broadway play or something, and then obviously at the end of the film, at the end of the game, you basically have access to every character, or at least every major character from across the franchise. Because they're also working on an animated spin-off show, so that could be an interesting thing to throw in there, like throw those characters in there. It'd be an interesting little thing to do, like make it like the Lego games where like you can play the game, do the missions, and then later on you can unlock the characters by like spending coins in the game, which you earn through playing the game.
Yeah, I like the idea.
That's what I think they should do. That's what they should do.
I like the idea of like something like Guardians of the Galaxy. The game is you move around and there's a lot of narrative, right? Like when you play, and I think if they could do something like that, it'd be a good idea. What are your thoughts on it, Sidlon?
Yeah, no, I think Guardians of the Galaxy is a good model for how to do a strong IP like this about a group of interesting characters with a big budget. Because I do think Stranger Things 1984 in the library is a great
it's solid
Stranger Things the game. It is a really solid game that everybody who likes Stranger Things and has Netflix should try, especially if you like SNES style retro action games, but like a little bit of a Metroidvania maybe. But if you want to give me something with a bigger budget, let me interact with people online, maybe even make an MMO. I mean, who knows what they could do if you've got this license with a big budget. And we know that Netflix has internal studio, probably in LA, working on at least one AAA multi-platform game expanding into PCs. I just can't wait to see whatever they got cooking.
Yeah, and you never know, because they might throw us off and do something completely different from what we're thinking. Who knows? It could be like a PvP kind of like first-person shooter of Stranger Things, right? Like, you never know.
No. What they got to do? They got to do Stranger Things cooking game. That's what it's got to be. Stranger Things cooking game. Stranger Things dating game. Stranger Things karting. All the good stuff.
They'll be draining that series until there's nothing else to do, for sure, because it's very popular. It's one of their popular franchise, and it makes a lot of sense. So definitely prepare yourself for more Stranger Things games.
And am I remembering right that there's maybe just one season left for the show?
There is, yes.
Yeah, season 5. Season 5 was last main season of the main show, and they're doing spin-offs. There's an anime spin-off in development that takes place in Tokyo. There's also obviously the Broadway play. They've got some spin-off books as well. So
yeah, Edgy took the word out of my mouth. There's going to be like a lot of spin-off after that.
But it'll be interesting to see. I would assume a AAA budget kind of game may launch like a little bit before the next season debuts to help wrap this all up. But yeah, cannot wait to see what they're doing.
Is it going to be disclosed now? That would be very exciting. So let's jump into the more news. Here, we're hearing Netflix reportedly plans to cut spending by $300 million. Does this mean for gaming? So this looks a little negative, but it actually isn't. Here, you hear some thoughts from Pocket Gamer, and they don't believe that gaming will be affected from this cut. So it's a very interesting, small read here. But yeah, what about gaming? Well, it's too early to say whether or not gaming or any division of the company will be exempt from cut costs. The company has continuously reiterated in commitment for gaming platform. But yeah, it goes on just saying how successful game is coming and how they don't believe that it will be affected much, which is a very excellent news. Like even though they're cutting some stuff, it seems like the gaming might not be touched. So do you guys, are you guys surprised by that? Do you guys believe that maybe a cut should have been done? And let's start with Sidlon here.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, it makes sense that they may need to cut some money based on because this is all as a result of where they're starting to charge if you want to let family members share your subscription, where it's always been free. But like, so they're going to need to cut some funding and be ready for less revenue a little bit. But Netflix is a big company. They've got a lot of divisions. There's a lot of ways they can cut costs. And yeah, everything that's coming out of Netflix sounds like they're pretty interested in keeping the energy behind the gaming platform. So yeah, I think the article is probably right on the money that they've got plenty of other ways to cut the budget without canceling any games that they've already announced. There's a chance it might affect them being able to sign the next game that has a really big budget, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, this is something that happened with Google Stadia. Like they had really cool games coming out during the first year, and after a while we start seeing like lower quality games coming out, and hopefully we don't see the same kind of trend with Netflix games, because it would definitely worry me, being someone who experienced all of that. But yeah, what about you, NG? What do you think about all of this?
Well, I want to say first of all, you compared this the way Stadia had like its declining games after its like first year. Funnily enough, we're actually technically nearly in the second full year of Netflix games, and so far they seem to have done pretty well.
Yeah, it's doing way better for sure.
Yeah, like New Valiant Hearts, New World of Goo, quite a few heavy hitters so far. Just TMNT Shredder's Revenge, that was a heavy hitter. But obviously, I feel like if they're going to make these cuts, they're going to cut stuff which obviously they might look at films and whatnot that don't do as well, or like genres that aren't as popular on Netflix. Like say, I don't know, they look at something like adult animation and they start cutting some shows that aren't doing as well as they should, because obviously Netflix has the whole thing with how they obviously deal with a show versus cost versus obviously how popular it is. But they're probably going to go through their TV and film studios, obviously cut whatever's not really that popular, whatever's not really bringing in the big bucks. If it's a reality show which you can easily make like 10 seasons of and it's really cheap, might as well. If it's a show like Stranger Things and it starts to like underperform and obviously it's got such a big budget and no one's watching it, that's when the cuts are going to come around. But I also do feel like there's one thing that they could do that could help obviously alleviate some costs, and that would actually be to merge Millarworld and the Rodolph Story Company, which are separate entities within Netflix. But I feel like they could merge them together under one brand under Netflix Publishing, and that could save a lot of money, because obviously you don't have two different divisions offering these libraries. You have one division doing it all through one house and make negotiating with companies like Amazon a lot easier for like royalties on Kindle and whatnot. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Whatever they can do to keep the company going, because we've seen some cut in the past for Netflix also. It's not just this year. So yeah, just got to be careful with the investors and all of that. And they also have to be careful in cutting their budget for gaming, because they don't want to miss out on opportunities to bring some of the best games out there. Like if they miss out on a team just because their budget, the contract that they offered is too low, then yeah, they don't want to miss out on the biggest one. But we mentioned that Netflix has been doing well with games, and we're mentioning stuff like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Spiritfarer and all of these games. and they're indie games, but or are they the indie games? But they're a little bit lower budget games than we see with AAA games. But it's because the reason why we're saying that they're doing good is because we're comparing it to other mobile subscription services, and they're definitely out there, bringing the biggest titles of mobiles, and that's why we believe, that they're doing very well.
And I think Shredder's Revenge is a great example of an amazing thing that they managed to bring into the platform this year, because that was already ridiculously successful on consoles. I mean, I think of that as pretty close to a AAA. I mean, Shredder's Revenge has a pretty good budget, recreating the old arcade style Ninja Turtles game. And it's just pretty amazing that they were able to bring a title that people knew and already loved to mobile.
That's what we want,
and have
right?
It work.
That's
and have it work with multiplayer online as smoothly as that did.
Yeah,
that was such a coup.
Playdigis is a really good company to port games on mobiles. They've been doing a really good job, so it's nice to see them, being partnered with Netflix. All right, so jumping to the next news, which is a little bit more positive, and you might question why they're cutting costs. So the news here is Netflix stock jumps after reporting nearly 5 million customers on ad plan, with over 25% of new subscribers taking ad-supported tier. So this doesn't have anything to do with games, but the reason why I've put it here is because I believe that the reason why the ad-supported tier is being used is for the games, because when you subscribe to the cheapest plan, which is the ad-supported tier, you get all of the games just like any type of tier that you have, and you don't get any ad, you don't get anything, you get the exact same experience as someone who would purchase like the higher tier. So the reason why I've brought it up here is because I want to see everyone's opinion on if they think that the gaming side of Netflix helped increasing the stocks like this. And we'll start with Sidlon here.
Yeah, I think overall, like, Netflix probably still doesn't have that many people out there realizing that the Netflix games exist. Like, the visibility of Netflix games still isn't where it should be. But when you're trying to pitch to gamers, like, what is it? Is it $7 a month US?
Something like that.
For the ad supported?
Yeah.
That's really competitive with Apple Arcade, a similar service, as a price to just get the games.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for ad supported, that's a pretty competitive mobile subscription gaming service. That happens to come with all the TV and movies of Netflix on top. Right? I think it's going to help with courting new people into Netflix.
What do you think about it, NG?
I just want to say one little correction to Sidlon's point is it doesn't come with all TV and films that are on Netflix. Basically, a lot of outside studios like BBC, I think it's like JKS or something like that in Korea, and as companies like Warner and Universal don't allow certain shows that are on Netflix to be on the ad tier due to the fact that they obviously they want the royalties, and Netflix is like, wow, we've already licensed the content from you, you should allow it for us. And obviously with BBC and that, it's sort of more issues because they're government-funded organisations, so they can't have ads run on that sort of content, so they sort of get all like up in arms about it. But
you're right. I did forget about that case.
Yeah. When it comes down to it, there's obviously Netflix games is probably a factor in this, but I don't think it's the main factor. I think the main factor is shows like Stranger Things, which are obviously on that tier.
Yeah.
With ads, and obviously it's quite cheap, like $7 US, £5 British money. It's not that bad a deal if you want to just watch Stranger Things and a few other things that Netflix makes themselves. But if you want to watch some of the licensed stuff, obviously you've got issues with that. But then I think the games can also factor into it because people are like, okay, say you get Netflix to watch Stranger Things, you might watch Stranger Things, you might see the games pop up on your home tab, or you might get a notification that there are games for it, whatever. And then you're like, oh, I'll try them out, and then next thing you know, you've ended up paying for 6 months of Netflix just by playing the games.
they're doing a really smart thing because that ad plan, it gets you sucked into the whole ecosystem because you start, playing the games and then you're like, oh, look at that. They have Stranger Things. I'm going to watch that for fun. Oh, it's actually really good. What else do they have? Oh, wait, I need a bigger plan to have 4K. All right, well, let me try that. So it's a good way for people just to get in it. And if you're really lacking money, then you can stay on that plan and they're still making money out of you. So it's a smart move for sure.
And once they start to actually have an ad campaign, hopefully, I'd love to see getting close to Christmas, like Netflix, to do an ad campaign that highlights their TV, movies, and the games.
Yeah.
And especially to highlight that you can get a lot of content for a pretty low price. I don't know. It's got to be good for their bottom line long term.
Yeah.
I think this gamble on gaming, it took a while to build up, but I think it's going to really pay off for them.
Yeah, definitely. And at least, they do some advertising. They have Netflix Geeked, and I enjoy it because it's kind of like a direct, like a E3 version of Netflix games. I'm happy. I'm very grateful for that because Google Stadia, they stopped doing that after the first year. So I'm not gonna ask for more just because they at least have something about it. Hopefully, we'll be hearing more about games about Netflix Geek this year.
This might sound a bit weird, but I kind of hope that if Netflix does do an ad campaign for Netflix games, they go for a style that's similar to the later Stadia ads, where it's like, oh, here's how you play the biggest AAA face mounters on any device you own, but then do it like, do it like that, like showcase some of the stuff like TMNT and whatnot, and then like at the end be like Netflix has games as being like a big theme throughout the ads, and then at the end it's like also exclusive games based on Netflix shows and movies, and it shows up like Plot Handle, Stranger Things, Money Heist is supposed to get a game, throw that one up there. That would be a good advertising campaign.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that.
If they want to advertise the game service specifically, I think Apple set a good model last month when they launched their campaign of Apple Arcade is open. Like they've got these nice videos, and the campaign is largely probably just YouTube videos that are available for people to share and spread to their friends. But just Apple is just highlighting the fact that everybody spends time in your life sitting around waiting in the doctor's office, waiting to pick up your kids. There's different things where you've got bits of time to fill, and their ad campaign highlights all those situations where you could be playing a game on your phone that would really bring some light to your life.
Yeah.
And fill whatever time you have, because the arcade is open. But hopefully Netflix could build off of that and just highlight. Mobile games have a purpose in life. For some people like me, it's your main thing you do. For other people, it's on your phone, on your tablet, when you've got a little bit of time to kill. Predator's Revenge is a great solution.
It's good. We'll be seeing it, I think, because they're seeing a lot of improvement on their service since they released the game. They're seeing some good numbers, I think. So I think that they'll probably dive into some commercials at some point if they notice that it's ranking up their stocks and money like that. So the next news that we have, it's kind of news and just some talk about it. But so on June 10th, there's the Future Games show that's happening. So this show, I'm not too familiar with it, but I think it just showcase a bunch of trailers of games that are coming later this year or something like that. But what I found a little bit exciting about it is that we've seen two companies that has Netflix games that has been talking about it. So the first one is Paper Trail. They're saying, we're excited to announce that we'll be taking part in the Games Radar Future Games Show. Make sure to tune in on Saturday 10 June to catch Paper Trail and other awesome games featuring in this year. And then we've got Rogue Games, who is a big supporter of Netflix games, good publisher. They're saying, we're thrilled to be showcasing Cookie Cutter, our upcoming hand-drawn Metroidvania, and High Water, which is a Netflix game at the moment. A light post-apocalyptic adventure game. at Future Games Show. Make sure to tune in June 10 for some exclusive new footage. So, the thing is, these games are like High Water will be releasing on other platforms later, and Paper Trail is also releasing on Steam. So, are we? What I'm curious about is that are these games, are they going to talk about Netflix during the show, or they're going to completely not talk about it and just talk about consoles, or platforms, because this is the popular thing. NG, what do you think? Do you think that they'll put a little bit of advertising about Netflix games during the show?
Yeah, I feel like there'll probably be at least one game, at least two, they'll talk about like what platforms on. Like, they'll be like, oh, it's on Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, whatever, and then they'll be like, Netflix is one of the ones they'll bring up, and they'll probably be like, wait, Netflix, and then they'll have a conversation like, yeah, Netflix has games, you don't know? Netflix has games.
Yeah.
But to me, that'd be so meta and that'd be so funny, and I hope that does actually happen. I think that'd be a fun little sort of like. It'd be fun for us lot in the community, like, hey, he said the thing. He said the thing. Yeah, he said it.
Oh my gosh.
But obviously, that depends if obviously that happens. But hopefully they do bring up Netflix games and like, yeah, it's also on Netflix. Obviously, I would bring up that Oxenfree 2 did mention Netflix games, for example, as day one, but obviously that's a Netflix owned thing, so it's kind of a bit more biased. But hopefully this in this case they do actually do it. So hopefully.
Yeah, I like how Oxenfree always mention Netflix games on their Twitter, advertisement. They're owned by Netflix, so it makes sense. But I just like that they say like pre-order everywhere and play on Netflix. It's very nice.
Yeah, it's a good nice thing.
That was a good. I think Night School Studio was the first. One of the first ones that Netflix acquired.
It was actually the first.
Yeah, that was a great acquisition because Night School Studios makes great games, and Oxenfree is such a good highlight to bring attention to the platform, along with High Water. Like High Water is a great one that's kind of influenced by Kentucky Route Zero, another great road trip story. So hopefully, when they're talking about it at that event, any mention of Netflix games is where it first debuted. Should be helpful.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that these guys should be the ones to make the next Stranger Things game, but I'm saying these guys should be the ones to make the next Stranger Things game.
Yeah, maybe not during that event. Maybe they're not going to talk about the next Stranger Things.
No,
but
but like they need to be the one to do it because obviously they made Oxenfree. Oxenfree is a great little horror like sort of series. So like do that with Stranger Things. Yeah, and take my money for the next 10 years.
Exactly. But yeah, hopefully we'll hear some stuff about Netflix game there. I remember Google Stadia when it was releasing on multiple platforms, including Google. Some publishers would intentionally not include Stadia in the ads and commercial because of the reputation of Stadia. It was so weird. So hopefully that doesn't happen with Netflix. But so far, there's been some positive talk about it. So that's very good. So that's what we got for the news, guys. That was pretty interesting. We, when I started the show last week, I was like, are we really going to get some weekly news and talk and be able to talk about Netflix games throughout an hour long? And look at that, we did get some pretty cool news here.
Clearly, things keep happening in this space, so it's good to have some place to talk about them.
Especially when you're lurking in the Netflix games community and all around. So I think we have a little bit of time still to talk about one last thing. So we're going to be doing our little segment here, which is NG's IP Tots. So this is just a little something that we like to talk. So NG really likes to talk about games, IP that are owned by Netflix and the potential of a game releasing from that IP. So today, NG would like to talk to you about a show called, what is it called? Super Crook. Oh crap.
Super Crook.
I'm not at the right place here. Let me go back here. Oh my gosh. What is that? Hard feelings. We don't want to see that. But Super Crook. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah. Basically, Super Crooks is a comic book series written by Mark Miller, who's obviously sold his Miller World comic publisher to Netflix back in 2017. And obviously, Netflix buying up most of his library, including like 2 titles. Super Crooks was one that they got in the acquisition. Super Crooks did get an anime adaptation in 2021. Obviously, that show that only ended after 1 season, so I doubt it was that popular. But there was talk of there being a live action series in development as well. And with superhero games being all the range, thanks to companies like Sony and their Spider-Man games on their PlayStation, as well as Warner Brothers games and their games like Batman Arkham Asylum and whatnot. It makes sense for Netflix to use their own little library of comics that they've got, which are superhero or supervillain based, like Super Crooks, and obviously make a game that would obviously work in those sort of worlds and would help obviously boost the notoriety of Netflix in those genres, especially since Super Crooks is a heist game. It could be a heist game. It could be a game where you're using your powers to like rob a bank or pull off some big heists. So it could essentially be similar to like Spider-Man meets GTA, basically, and that's sort of what I think Netflix needs to sort of do. Don't follow the trends that everyone else is doing. You got to be the trendsetter, just like they were back with the streaming service back in 2007.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good idea, and I'm into it. I would definitely play a game about heist and with anime kind of character art. I would love that. Does that tickle your whiskers in Sidlon? Is that something that you'd play?
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought this up, NG, because I hadn't heard of Super Crooks, but looking through the trailer, this seems like something I should learn more about. Clearly, the Millerverse has a lot of good content. That since Netflix owns it now, like there's a lot they can do in animated series and attached games. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. Hopefully they're thinking along the same lines.
Hopefully so. Because I reckon I could be like one of their killer apps. Like, we've got our own version of Grand Theft Auto for mobile phones, and it's based on a new IP.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's all the time we had for today. We have a lot of interesting topics to talk about whenever there's a little bit less news, but we're gonna keep that for another episode just in case. If we ever get like a real big surge of news every single week, then we'll make sure to put some time in to talk about these subjects that we have. But I think we're gonna call it a day today. So very exciting again. We're always very much looking forward to the future of Netflix games because they're not, they're pretty good at hiding the stuff. We don't know exactly what we're getting. We know about 13 games that's coming in the future, but that's in between 2023 and 2024. So there's a lot of stuff that we don't know about. The last thing I just want to say is just have a little bit of thought about the future of Netflix. So anything you'd like to say, NG, before we end the stream?
Yeah, I will say I do hope Netflix just continue on a little streak that they've been going on where they're just putting out quality games. They seem to want to focus on making the player experience the best for whoever wants to play the games on Netflix. Even if you're not found certain ones and you want to focus on, like, I don't know, say you're fan of World of Goo, but you don't want to play Strange Things Puzzle Tales, that's fine. They've got the variety there for you, and that's what they need to keep doing. They need to keep pushing out the variety of stuff, new games, new IPs, new franchises, and hopefully, as we progress over the next few months and years, Netflix will obviously have a bigger library, more variety for people to check out. Obviously, I joke about obviously a GTA meets Spider-Man like game based on Super Crooks, but that's what I think would offer more variety because there aren't really that many open world games. I don't think there's any open world games on Netflix games, but they need something like that. They need something that offers that sort of like niche because obviously every other game platform has that niche covered. Netflix games doesn't. So Netflix games can appeal to casuals and with some of their games, but they also need to appeal to people who are a bit more well versed within gaming and who know a bit more about different franchises like Grand Theft Auto, like Call of Duty, like Minecraft, And also, I feel like Netflix's best way of doing that is obviously betting on its IP library because they've got one of the biggest IP libraries of anyone. Plus, they can use public domain works as well, like Peter Pan and whatnot. Although might get some funny looks from the Disney executives across the table, but you might as well. There's public domains, so to me, I feel like Netflix needs to just keep pushing. I also wouldn't be against them buying more studios, because obviously more studios and setting them up would help boost the notoriety of Netflix. Because they've got that California studio that's got Joseph Dayton, Chocobo Sunny, and I forget the other guy's name, but he worked on Gears of War. You've got all them working there. You know, you've got Moonloot in Finland. You got Next Games. You got Spry Fox. You got Night Dive Night School Studios. You got who else? Bossman Entertainment, and like they've all got these like different identities, and I kind of feel like they should focus on like letting them do what they want, but then also when it comes to like when new games, take some risks on IPs you may not think would work. You know, like we know the Too Hot to Handle game was quite successful Netflix games, right? So why not use some of your other dating shows and make them games as well? You never know; it could work, might not, but you won't know unless you try. So
exactly, and hopefully, yeah, we'll get some more interesting stories about purchasing new acquisitions and stuff like that. So
yeah,
what about you, Sidlon? Do you have any things, any like hopes and dreams and good things you'd like to say about the service before we end this stream?
Yeah, like NG, I'm kind of excited about those 6 internal studios to see what they're doing. Like and it's great that Dungeon Boss is the first thing I think we're seeing out of those internal studios since they got bought. Dungeon Boss next year is the first internal release. And I think we're going to start seeing more and more of them this year. And I'm just looking forward to everything they're doing. And I do think something like a Grand Theft Auto kind of game, like a big scope exploration game, it has always been kind of hard to do on mobile platforms. It's because it's hard to figure out how to monetize a Grand Theft Auto kind of game with like high production values and a lot of content. Because like people get irritated if they have to pay IAP for every little thing in the game. But like GTA has always been something that you pay $30-$40 to get something with a whole lot of content. And that's what Netflix is positioned to be able to do. Because Netflix has a big budget. They've got a lot of subscribers who could be interested in this game when they fund something really big. A AAA kind of game can happen here. Like Apple Arcade can also do things like that, but they don't have as many subscribers as Netflix does. So Netflix is in a great position to really expand what mobile gaming is. And I'm looking forward to seeing month by month what they start to tell us about.
Yeah, lots of potential, and that's why we're really into it, because the future is very promising, especially for Netflix with all the things that they can accomplish. They're showing us a lot of promises, so let's hope that they actually go for it, accomplish it. So we'll see in the coming years. All right, guys. So this wraps up episode 2 of NGamers Checkpoint, a Netflix games podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you're listening. What are your thoughts on what we've talked about today? And don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet, and we'll be doing some more content every single week, so keep a lookout. Thank you very much, everyone, and have yourself a wonderful evening. Bye!
Later, guys.
Bye, guys.